Hey guys, this is Market Update. Bitcoin's at an all-time high, and it will continue going to all-time highs when valued in fiat currency. That is guaranteed. Bitcoin is proliferating through the financial system. And it's a little bit of a different video because I want to explain why I will keep buying Bitcoin at any price. Bitcoin has had phenomenal returns, and I think the bull market is going to continue because really what I'm saying is we are in a period of huge debasement of fiat currencies. Now we're valuing Bitcoin in fiat currency, so basically I'm saying Bitcoin is going to continue to go higher. Valued in fiat, fiat is going to continue to essentially crash and debase itself. And we're in a game right now. And whether you like it or not, you have to play the game. And if you don't want to play the game, then you're going to have loads of your stuff stolen away from you. The game, right, is fiat currency, is we're going to steal your stuff. That's what fiat currency is, right? We're going to have you work for this paper that we print. That is theft. So you're in that game. We're all forced into it through law, actually, through the threat of violence, that if you don't use the currency of your country, then you will go to jail, right? Legal tender means that if you don't accept that government-issued currency, you will go to jail. So we're in a game and we have to play it. And if you don't want to play it, you're going to get wrecked. The game is to prevent theft. I buy Bitcoin out of principle. It's not about returns anymore. There's been loads of assets that have gone up huge amounts, Nvidia being one of them. I don't make videos on Nvidia. Bitcoin is the FU to what they did to us after 2008. All of their assets were going to go and get repriced to what they should have been priced at, which was 50 to 80% lower than what they were. They didn't let it happen. They bailed themselves out. 20 years later, our generation is now realizing what that means. Nothing is affordable. We can't afford a house. Rents are skyrocketing. We can't settle down. We can't start a family because it's completely unaffordable. They did that to us. After 2008, I remember the bailouts. Occupy Wall Street happened in London as well. I remember it. Came and went, right? Everyone forgot. 20 years later, we are now facing the consequences of that. How do we prevent that theft? Bitcoin. They can print as much as they want, but it doesn't matter. And they're continuing to print. And in fact, this theft is continuing through crypto and stablecoins, where senators and other politicians in the States have literally said out loud, stablecoins continue the dollar hegemony that we have and own. Dollar hegemony means everyone that uses the dollar, we're stealing their labor when they hold dollars. Fiat currency is the theft of labor. If you don't want that to happen to you, you have to play the game and you have to get out. Bitcoin is the principled investment. It's not about returns. It's about saying F you, and it's going to keep going up because it's strong and their theft cannot steal any value from Bitcoin. Every time they try and print, it's not affecting you if you're in Bitcoin because the price of Bitcoin will go up. The more they print, the more they try and steal, they cannot affect it. It's a principled decision at this point, and I will continue buying BTC. BTC, there's no questions about it anymore. There are none. In fact, this is proliferating through TradFi, and it's demonetizing all of the theft. So we now have the stablecoin bill, which is essentially dollar hegemony around the world in the 21st century. The dollar debases at 10% a year. So anyone that holds it is paying 10% of the value that they create over time to the US, essentially. This will continue. Dollar hegemony will continue. But why give 10%, 15% of the value that you create away to the US each year? Why do that? Politicians want that to happen. The whole game, the fiat currency game, they want that power, and so that will continue. And maybe if you're in a developing nation where your currency is losing 20, 30, 40% a year, well, 10% a year is better than that. So you move over to the dollar. But that's still 10% over time. After 10 years, 15 years, half your wealth is gone, if you have any. Bitcoin is the way that we can actually demonetize their assets and make things actually affordable. And I'll show you this, Bitcoin versus housing. But we have the stablecoin bill that will cement dollar hegemony around the world. And then we also have the market structure legislation, which is very bullish for crypto generally and Bitcoin. And you're seeing a lot of crypto stocks move up on this. This is actually good news. There's no questions about BTC anymore. It's completely proliferated through the financial system. So there are no questions. The only game is now, don't F it up, right? Keep buying, keep being consistent, and keep demonetizing their theft in fiat currency. Move away from that system. Do not give them your time and energy anymore. We're buying Bitcoin every week. So Coinbase is saying that they're adding Bitcoin to their company's treasury. Many other companies are as well. The game over time is going to be how much Bitcoin do you have? Because you cannot capitalize on toxic capital, which is fiat currency. Toxic debt, that's what it is. You cannot capitalize on that. It's garbage. Everyone knows it. So we're basically at a point now where everyone knows what Bitcoin is. There's no questions about it. You just have to stay humble and stack sats. It's exactly what you have to do, because Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. Bitcoin is actual capital. Everything else is a scam. Right? Fiat currency is a total scam. Having bonds, having cash, they're just stealing that away from you. Why would you capitalize anything on that? Why would you capitalize on theft? We can see what's happening in the States. A lot of crypto adjacent companies, there are actually some of them outperforming BTC right over the last year. If we do the last year, this is Circle here, crazy IPO. You can see that TradFi wants in on crypto. You can see Robinhood has done fantastically over the last few months. And MicroStrategy, which is leverage Bitcoin basically, right? I wouldn't say that Circle has outperformed Bitcoin, it just IPO'd. But you have this blue one here, which is Coinbase, also doing very, very well. Market structure, legislation, everything else, super bullish for crypto equities and their ability to make money, right? And gain customers. Bitcoin sitting in the middle here is different. These companies, I'm not going to try and advertise a security to you. Companies come and go. They all fail eventually. Bitcoin won't. It's different, right? It's a commodity. It's money. This is what I think you should capitalize on. Savings. The vast majority of your portfolio should be savings, right? An index, a world index of money, that's Bitcoin. Everything else, these are trades, right? Securities, companies, these are risky trades, and I don't want to advertise them. But you can see crypto, huge mainstream adoption coming. There's no questions anymore about it, right? So that's what we're in, but I really want to focus on BTC here and trying to demonetize the theft that has happened over the last 20 years. Our generation is finding it extremely difficult to buy a house and start a family. You can see it in the data, right? You can see how many years it takes to get the deposit for a house and how many years you have to work, etc., to get the house and pay off the mortgage. It is far more than the previous generation. That is directly because what they did after 2008, right? Their housing prices should not be where they are. They should be much lower. They should be more affordable for us. But what they did is they bailed themselves out. Banks make money when they create loans. But you need something to loan against. You can't just create the loan. Yeah, they can create personal loans, but it's a small amount, right? What they want to do is create loans against housing. 10x leverage. That's what a mortgage is, right? 30 years of your life and your income, that's what you're leveraging up to buy the house. It's a hugely leveraged system built upon collateral, which is a house, which is a physical depreciating good, right? Which gets worse and worse over time. So you've got this complete dichotomy of a fiat system which must expand with more and more debt on housing, which eventually the demand is going to fall away because as the boomer generation tailed off, there just wasn't enough demand for these loans. So they keep loaning to worse and worse and worse borrowers who can't pay it back. They package up all the rubbish and put it into a AAA rated bond and sell the bond as a mortgage-backed security, right? And eventually leads to collapse. So the housing prices should collapse, right? But they don't because they just print money and bail out the whole system by buying all of the mortgage-backed securities, pushing the prices up. 20 years later, we try and buy a house and we can't do it. So how do we fight this? How do we get what we want more affordable again? It's two ways. Socialism, where you just say, you've got stuff, we're going to steal your stuff and we're going to redistribute it. And that never works. The other way is to be positive through capitalism. Bitcoin is capital and is demonetizing the theft that occurred, right? Bitcoin has now been recognized as a reserve asset by the US housing system. To be fair, in America, why are they the world leader? Yes, dollar hegemony, they do want that. But the other side is there are politicians there that actually want to help out right? And younger politicians that maybe are coming into power, we want to vote for this as well, right? So they are trying to help us out by demonetizing what happened over the last 20 years. Bitcoin is demonetizing what happened over the last 20 years, right? You can now use Bitcoin as collateral to actually buy a house. The reason that's important is because Bitcoin is demonetizing housing. We are not playing that game again, right? We're not in their system that just stole everything. We have to create our own value here and demonetize the theft that occurred. As a former mortgage banker, let me be very clear. They just issued a directive, Fannie and Freddie, to begin considering crypto as an asset in mortgage risk assessments without converting to USD. So the value of your Bitcoin can be used to get a mortgage on a house. Why is that important? It's important because it's the only way we're going to afford this stuff. It's the principle, right? Bitcoin isn't just, well, I hope the price goes up. It is the thing that we can use to gain a little bit back from what they did over the last 20 years. US home prices fell 0.4%. That doesn't matter. Money will always be printed to keep the price up because the house price is basically a derivative of the debt built upon it. If the house price goes down, all of the debt becomes completely unpayable. You go into negative equity. You can't have that. So they just keep printing money and they will keep debasing the currency any amount to make sure that house prices just bumble along and go a little bit higher every time. But future generations get screwed. In any case, you can see here that the cumulative fiscal budget deficit is continuing, right? They posted a 316 billion budget deficit in May, right? Government outlays rose 3%. This will continue happening. If it didn't, GDP would be negative, right? Which is another financial collapse, which they never let to happen. Everyone says recession, recession, recession. It's not about recession. It's about every other month and year where there isn't a recession, where you have complete and total debasement of the currency and your wages and everything, where inflation happens to keep the debt-based system from collapsing in on itself. This is the theft that has occurred, and our generation is stepping into. Why it's important, why Bitcoin is important, why I will keep buying, and it's not because of the returns, it's because of the principle of the matter. I want to demonetize what they did to us 20 years ago. This is housing in white, and this is Bitcoin in orange. If you can't afford a house, right, in fiat currency, Bitcoin has demonetized housing over the last year or so, let's say a couple of years, by 700%, right? If you're a young person, please understand this. Politics is not going to help you. Get into Bitcoin, start saving immediately, get out of fiat currency. You are being stolen from. Go into Bitcoin regularly. Doesn't matter how much you put in. If you want to buy a house by the time you're 30 or whatever, you need the deposit. You can use Bitcoin as collateral to get the deposit on your house in the US anyway. And if you're not in the US, at least you have this that is going up and up and up versus the property. There is absolutely no chance that property is going to outperform Bitcoin. Zero. Property is a physical depreciating good. Technology should make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper over time. But valued in fiat currency, it's going to keep going up. And if you're in the fiat currency game, you are being stolen from. Okay, you have to get out. Bitcoin is the lifeboat. It is going to continue to demonetize property. The thing that we all want is a house for our family to live in, right? If you're in your teens or 20s, just put any amount into Bitcoin. Start saving for that. Start saving for your future. And you can't do it in fiat currency. You can't do it in a savings account. You can't do it in bonds. They're all part of the scam. If you want to do it in NASDAQ or S&P, just get into something. But Bitcoin can be used as collateral in mortgage loans in the US now. And it will demonetize the theft that occurred. Housing doesn't go up in value. You see housing's up, 40%? It's not up 40% because the inflation rate is 10% a year. By the time you inflation adjust, there is no growth in this, right? But they keep it higher and higher and higher. If you're in the fiat system, you're getting wrecked by the inflation. So you have to demonetize it via Bitcoin. It's so clear. This is our way out. Our generation is told to stop complaining. GDP is higher. The economy is strong. Biden said that specifically, right? GDP goes higher and higher and higher. Since 2008, GDP has gone higher every year almost. Look in 2021. Look at GDP. It's 12% annualized. GDP is strong, right? The economy is strong. Stop complaining. we know that that's not true. What is it? GDP is fake. It's a fiat currency metric. GDP is measured in fiat currency. Everyone's locked in their homes. Gross domestic product, the amount of stuff created. Everyone's locked in their homes. Nothing is created. Why is GDP 12%? Because they printed 50% more money in a year. You can literally print GDP by printing money. It's fake. That is why GDP can go higher and higher and higher, and we get worse and worse off. Fiscal budget deficits, money printing to keep GDP higher. This will be what happens through our entire generation. It happened before, it will happen in the future. If you believe that fiat currency is a system that you want to be in, then go ahead. We are in a massive depression right now. We are in it. But everything looks like it's going higher, right? Stocks going higher, everything going higher. The economy is great, the economy is booming, right? Nope. This is gold valued in USD. So the price of gold in USD inverted, right? What it shows is that the USD is crashing. If USD was still pegged to gold, we would be seeing a massive depressionary bust, just like the 1920s. But the fiat currency is unpegged. It's unpegged, it's wild. And you cannot taper a Ponzi scheme. It's just going to continue. You must remove yourself from it. Everything is crashing in price when valued in real money. Even gold. If you look at stocks, they've barely outperformed gold over the last 10 years more. So you're saying all of that effort can't outperform gold stuck in a vault. The system, the economy is shrinking, right? If you actually think about it, there's kind of fewer people being born, right? The demographics are rolling over. So the amount of goods and services produced, GDP, actual GDP, should go down. But it never does. It always collapses upwards. Print money to make sure the debt doesn't collapse. But it is collapsing. It's all collapsing versus real money. Have to get out of that system. These are some slides from a recent video by Jack Mallers, which I'll link below in the description. Definitely go ahead and watch that. The problem is that the debt system has to continue pushing prices higher, right? You need to demonetize that system. After 2008, the whole boomer generation, the demand for housing starts to roll over as the demographics do. The demand for credit starts to roll over. So what do? They have to create credit. They have to go down the list in terms of ages and create credit against something else. But an 18-year-old can't buy a house, right? But they can take a student loan. That's why politicians all said everyone must go to university. I remember in the UK, Tony Blair, you must go to university. Everyone gets a university education. What does that mean? Because university is pointless for most people, right? Like, what do you really learn there? What do you learn in uni versus just being an apprentice somewhere in an office or anywhere else, right? Student loans, an 18-year-old gets loaded up with $100,000, $200,000 worth of debt at 18 years old. For what? For a bit of paper. But they need to keep creating the currency. This is the problem. It doesn't matter who's in charge, red or blue. All right, this is again from Jack Mallers. The debt ceiling keeps going up. The amount of debt has to increase to make sure that the debt system doesn't collapse. They will not let that system collapse nominally, ever, 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 ever. It will not happen. The people that have the debt don't want it to collapse. This is not only nefarious, this is part of the system that we've created where we told everyone, right, get into a 10x leverage loan to buy a house, get $200,000 to go to university, complete waste of money. But these people took that debt. They're not bad people. So what are you going to do? Just collapse everything? You can't, right? So you have to keep printing the money, inflating the debt away, pushing prices higher so that they can actually afford the debt, right? But if you look at debt valued in Bitcoin, it is crashing. So I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin forever because it is the only logical thing to do. And is going to keep demonetizing everything which should really get cheaper, right? Because housing should get cheaper. I mean, technology is going to make it cheaper. Everyone is working to make things cheaper all the time. And it's not going to get cheaper valued in fiat currency, which is a system that has been created that we should not put any of our effort and savings into. So I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin. If you trade Bitcoin, you can get a deposit bonus on Bybit down in the description below. But just buy Bitcoin over and over and over again if you can. And if you're young, this is how you can afford a house. I'm James, this is Money G. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.